Cam Newton is now employed. What's your guys' initial reaction to the Patriots signing Cam Newton?
It's kind of weird. I thought it was weird that they weren't in conversations before that because he is a professional and he did lead a team to the Super Bowl. It might have cost him a lot more than we realized then, but I'm excited to see him in that type of offense or just that setting because Cam is so in your face and so his own person that, you know, the Patriot way is you do things this way. So I'm very curious to see how it goes because even everyone that's ever gone there that had an issue previously, I mean, it gets shut down at the door. Check the ego at the door kind of thing. So
yeah, the Patriot way.
The Patriot way. So I'd be very curious to see, how it ends up. But is it weird? Like, I'm a little excited for it. I shouldn't be. I'm not a Patriots fan or a Cam Newton fan even. But it's like, Oreos, where it's like that's not supposed to happen. But now I want it.
Well, I think that when it comes to the fantasy football community, from everything I've seen, there's two themes that I notice going on in the fantasy sports world when it comes to being opinionated on this topic. And on one camp, you have the is he going to beat out Jared Stidham side? And we're going to go ahead and skip that side. That's not a question. Yeah. Cam Newton is going to be the starter for the New England Patriots.
But we just talked about the Patriot way. And wouldn't it be some Patriot shit to sign Cam Newton as a backup to, I don't even know his first name, Jason Stidham? I don't know, I'm thinking of Jason Statham.
Sounds like both of you guys are sleeping on Brian Hoyer right now. I'm just saying.
Well, didn't they say that as of right now or prior to the
I'm
going
to keep hitting the snooze alarm on Brian Hoyer. I know he's our hometown boy, but I'm just going to keep hitting snooze. And I'm going to consider the New England Patriots the Cam Newton show right now. And in my opinion, I think this signing completely saved every fantasy asset on the New England offense.
Mm-hmm.
Before that signing, there wasn't a single member of that offense that I wanted any part of. I don't have faith in N'Keal Harry bouncing back, even with Cam Newton now, because he had a down rookie year. I didn't trust that offense. And from everything that has come out of the Patriots locker room, Tom Brady didn't like the guy. And if Tom Brady doesn't like you, that probably means you're not doing something the Patriot way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm writing him off too quick. He's going to prove me either right or wrong when it comes to this year. But I do think that it makes Julian Edelman fantasy relevant again, especially in PPR leagues, because I do think he's going to get a lot of targets from Cam. And I do think that it's going to improve kind of the sleeper stock of the tight ends that New England has. And it's also going to bring Sony Michel and James White back into flex discussions, especially when it comes to James White and Julian Edelman if you're in a PPR league. If you take James White or Julian Edelman in a PPR league, that's a pick that I can definitely respect now that they have a quarterback who has proven that he can move the ball. When you're coming into the season as the only quarterback with negative fantasy points, as Jared Stidham was, he was the only slotted starter that had negative fantasy points the year before. I'm not going to trust that. But now you bring in Cam Newton. What do you guys think about their weapons?
I'm kind of surprised that it took this long for him to land in New England because I felt like it was the only natural fit. I mean, we've talked about it numerous times on this podcast before that we're seeing such a deep quarterback class this year, and there's so few openings for starting quarterbacks especially. So you kind of look around. I don't know why it took him so long to sign him, in my opinion. And the only other fit I could see him was like taking a Jameis deal and going to Pittsburgh because he's a big guy. Sit behind Ben for a year, get healthy and that kind of thing. But as far from a fantasy perspective, I'm not ready to, say that there's a huge ceiling for any offensive weapons on the Patriots. I mean, it definitely helps White and Edelman the most. As far as N'Keal Harry is concerned, I'm not totally ready to write him off yet because we see he got injured, preseason last year.
Yeah, he got a late start.
He had that stunts your development, especially when he came from Arizona State where they ran a signal offense, which obviously that's big in college football. So when you make that jump from that kind of an offense to the NFL where you've never really worked out of a huddle before and you never had this kind of verbiage, especially into a Bill Belichick offense, I think that really could have stunted his growth a lot. So I understand why people might write him off as a bust at this point, but I'd like to see him with a full offseason, a full preseason, to be able to develop and learn the NFL game. So I'm not totally ready to write him off yet.
I think the biggest reason that I'm so far down on N'Keal Harry is the Patriots' track record of drafting wide receivers. Because it is just miss after miss after miss. And they always get hyped up as, if Tom Brady's throwing you the ball, you want them on your fantasy team.
Right.
But it seems like every time that they sign a guy, the guys that they sign are the ones that are productive, and the ones that they draft always fall flat on their face.
Or they surprise guys like Julian Edelman and things like that, where it's like no one even heard of that guy.
Yeah,
and of course he's not drafted.
Dive.
This is the highest Bill Belichick has ever drafted a wide receiver.
He was a first rounder.
Yeah. And they've hit I think they've hit on Edelman and Deion Branch in the draft. That's it ever.
And Edelman wasn't even drafted as a was Edelman even drafted?
Was he drafted? I don't know.
I don't think he was even drafted, but still, either way.
In college, he was a quarterback.
It's
not even like they saw tape of him at wide receiver.
Exactly.
So their track record of drafting wide receivers is not good. Their track record of dumpster diving for wide receivers is very good. And considering that N'Keal Harry is a high asset, I expect him to get every opportunity to be in that offense, but I don't have much faith that he's going to step up and take advantage of that. Now, with big arm Cam Newton coming in, maybe he proves me completely wrong, but for the ADP that N'Keal Harry is going at right now, I can't spend that on him. I can't do it. So what do you expect of Cam Newton for the 2020 season? A couple episodes ago, we did our quarterback rankings, and obviously Cam Newton was an afterthought.
Got to be on a team to get on the list.
Yeah, you have to be employed there. So now that he's employed, now that we are going to write him as a starter, does he make your list or your honorable mentions that we mentioned before? Now, before you guys answer this, I will say that in a down year in 2018, he put up 282.6 fantasy points for a quarterback. Now, if I'm looking at where that would rank him in last year's quarterback class, he would be QB 10 of 2019 if he repeated exactly what he did in 2018. So what do you expect from him in 2020?
Well, we could be looking at a new Cam, so I don't think we're going to see, especially given how long he was gone and what he was gone for, we're not going to see as much of the dual threat Cam that we're used to. And this end in a Bill Belichick offense, like we had already mentioned it, I think that his ceiling is as high as his surroundings will let it go. So that means that he could. I don't think he's going to have numbers like that. I don't think he'll be even top 12. But I don't even have a reason to back it. You know what I'm saying?
We don't have any baseline to know what he's going to do with Bill Belichick. Right. Now, Bill Belichick is known for catering to the strengths of the players that he has in the locker room. So, we know what Cam Newton's strengths are. He's a big arm quarterback, he's mobile, he's hard to stop if it comes to a third and short, fourth and short, third and goal, fourth and goal. We know that he is perfectly able to get the yardage needed in short situations, and the added bonus of rushing production is always something we look for when we're ranking quarterbacks. So the sky's the limit when it comes to Cam Newton, but we have zero baseline to know where he's going to finish. Now, when we're looking at every quarterback that we've ranked so far, even the ones that have changed teams, we have a baseline of how we think they're going to do. But when you look at Cam going from basically a whole year off, he only played 2 games last year.
Mm-hmm. Now, it did not look good.
And now you're switching to Bill Belichick, who's the most unpredictable coach in the entire sport.
Which is another reason why, I know this is, I said it earlier as a joke, but we very well could see a situation where Cam maybe doesn't start game 1 or something like that. Like this is the Patriots we're talking about. It's the most secretive organization in the NFL, and do I think that would be smart? No. But then again, I also thought that moving a Kent State quarterback to wide receiver and playing him at corner and kick returner and punt returner in the same game wasn't smart. But they won a Super Bowl that year. So I don't know. I have no idea, but I do think that if utilized correctly, I do think he can definitely he can begin the climb back to relevance. But I still don't think he's going to be in the top 12. Not this year. It's too deep this year.
For me, I'm very excited at the thought of his ceiling. Obviously, we don't know. Obviously, we just got done talking about the Patriots, and we don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to use this guy and that guy. But I almost think that he has enough weapons to help him in the passing game, but they're not. Their ceilings are low enough that it kind of gives him options in the running game as well. Like he'll have to rely on his legs a lot. I think the ceiling's really high for him, but I also think, I know it's not fair to him, I think that a lot of what he does this year hinges on his health.
Yeah, I mean, as it does with any player in the NFL, his floor is as low as it can go, and his ceiling, we've seen what he can do. He's been a QB1 before in fantasy football. Just about every year in his career, he has put up about 3,300-ish passing yards. His touchdowns have varied from the teens to the high 30s. He's a complete wild card. So he's a player that I would like to draft as a second quarterback later in drafts. I don't know how high him getting signed by the Patriots is going to raise his ADP, but as it stands right now, he's one of the last quarterbacks being drafted in a lot of mock drafts, even after this signing and even with all the attention on him. Now, whenever there's a story and the spotlight is on someone, that's when you see ADP move the most. Like when Debo went down, his ADP completely bottomed out, and you can get him in mock drafts right now, 10th, 11th, 12th round, easily. And I consider that a steal. Now that Cam Newton has been signed, he's going from undrafted to now being drafted in around the 130s. And once training camp opens, I expect that to raise a little higher. But if he's being taken outside of the top 12 quarterbacks in fantasy, I see no problem, and I would even encourage taking him as your second quarterback, because it's the same situation that people that threw a dart on Lamar Jackson last year can find themselves in. Mobile quarterback, big arm, and a lot of doubts. But the ceiling is so high that he's worth the gamble.
Totally agree.